Its effect was catastrophic. Many birds lost eggs and nests. They had to put their breeding season on hold, just as it was starting. An already brief summer is now even shorter. On the outlying islands, there's a real sense of urgency in the huge puffin colonies. The torrential rain flooded many burrows, and it's been hard work digging them out again. Deep in the back of this burrow nestles a single 3-week-old chick, a puffling. Her parents have been together for many years. They constantly reaffirm their bond with ritualized head flicking. Every day they fly out to sea to bring her food, each clocking up to 100 kilometers. Because of the setbacks this year, the parents are under even greater pressure than usual. They must feed the puffling quickly and often, so she'll be ready to leave by autumn. And there's another problem. Great skuas, locally known as bonxies, make a living mugging other seabirds. They can bully gannets twice their size into coughing up their catch. At a third of the skua's weight, puffins are a pushover. The bonxies prowl the colony, seizing any opportunity that comes their way. They're quite capable of dragging a puffling from its hole and devouring it. So the chick must stay well clear of the entrance. For thousands of years, the seas around these islands have sustained not just seabirds, but people. On the east coast of the Isle of Lewis, sheltered from Atlantic gales, lies the town of Stornoway. It's easily the best harbour in the Outer Hebrides. In the days when travelling across Europe was slow and dangerous, Stornoway was an important crossroads for people using the sea. Bronze Age traders, Celts and Vikings all came here and made this a cosmopolitan place. Even the town's name comes from the ancient tongue of the Vikings. Stornoway has always been an important fishing port, and it's still home to many boats. A group of grey seals hangs out in the harbour, waiting for the returning fleet. This mature bull has realized that the boats can supply him with a free fish supper. Living here certainly means you don't need to work too hard to earn regular meals. Back in the puffin colony, getting a meal is a matter of life and death. The bonxies are hunting hard. They're hungry too. The 3-week-old puffling is keeping safe at the back of the burrow. But another youngster has made a fatal mistake. It's a lucky escape for the puffling. But now the bonxies turn their attention to its parents. To deliver this precious catch, they have to run the gauntlet. Every time they feed their puffling, it's a triumph. The chicks which survive can live for more than 30 years. Little birds with a lot of experience. The seas around the Outer Hebrides are rich. And despite the storms earlier in the year, it's turning out to be an exceptionally good year for fish. There's plenty of food here to support large shoals. But you still have to know where to find them. In the Sound of Barra, a pod of 15 bottlenose dolphins know all the tricks of the trade. They can read these complex tidal waters as only true residents can. Sometimes they save energy by bow riding fishing boats which are going the same way. After all, fishermen need to read the currents and tides too. This pod will work these waters all summer, making the most of this short time of plenty. Now the local residents are joined by long-distance travelers. Missing the spring storms by just a few weeks, a flock of migrants arrives on the warm south wind. Arctic terns. They've flown almost 19,000 kilometers from the Antarctic to the island of Lewis. Here, just north of Stornoway town, they're checking out a small river island, rich with blooming sea pinks. It seems ideal. There are no ground predators here, and on the doorstep is a great source of food. Broad Bay is sheltered, and the many animals already feeding here are proof of how rich it is. Otters fish the rising tide, while eider ducks dive for mussels. The terns decide to settle here. They explore the river island, working out where they want to nest. Terns, like so many seabirds, mate for life. And these kind of decisions take time. After coming so far, they might as well get it right. Now that's done, the male needs to cement their relationship. All he has to do is to head out into the bay and find a small gift for his mate. Shrimps are too slippery. A plump sand eel from further out might be better, once he's got a good grip. Now it's just a case of getting it back home. But once again, there are pirates waiting in the wings. This time they're Arctic skuas, swift, maneuverable, and persistent. A bonxie moves in on the colony. This needs teamwork. But it's all worth it to hand over the prize. It's early July. With 18 hours of daylight, conditions are perfect for growing crops. But even now, farming in the Outer Hebrides is never easy. The islands of Uist and Benbecula appear the most unforgiving. Scraped by long-gone glaciers, they're now as much water as land.
This show was created for you and your family to watch together. Welcome to Nat Geo Wild.
But running down the Atlantic side of the islands is one of the jewels of the Hebrides. The Macaire. Lying between the unfertile moorland and the sea, it's like a Scottish Garden of Eden. Over centuries, the winds have blown shell sand up onto the islands, balancing out the acid of the peat. But the Macaire wouldn't be this rich if it wasn't for people. Generations of crofters have carried seaweed onto the land to make it more fertile, and they leave the small fields fallow in some years, allowing wildflowers, insects and birds to move in. In high summer, the Macaire hums with rare bees like the moss carder and the great yellow bumblebee, extinct in most of mainland Britain. Meadows like this hardly exist there anymore because of intensive farming. There are always corners for the corncrake, whose surreal rasping call is heard almost nowhere else in Britain. It's flourishing here in the Uists. The rich supply of insects makes this an ideal home for skylarks. Their nest is well hidden amongst the flowers. The chicks are brilliantly camouflaged with tendril-like feathers on their heads, helping them blend in with the grass. The Macaire is also globally important because it's home for birds like lapwings which nest on the ground. In a normal year, they'd have finished raising their chicks by now, but they were also hit by the storms. So along with other local residents like redshanks and oyster catchers, they're sharing the Macaire with recently arrived migrants. It's much more crowded than usual, and the lapwings are kept busy defending their patch. Wader chicks hatch fully fluffed up and ready to go. It's like keeping control of half a dozen wayward toddlers all at once. The mother lapwing has a real job on her hands to keep her brood together and safe. The unseasonal spring storms have been followed by one of the driest summers in living memory. It hasn't rained for weeks. Throughout July, the ground nesting birds work frantically. The skylark chicks that seemed so small and defenseless just weeks ago are now chasing their parents for food. The plants are wilting, but there's still plenty of insects for the many young wading birds. They're growing fast, but still can't fly. The lapwing chicks have grown, but the brood is down to just 2. It's a bigger loss of life than you'd expect in a place without ground predators. It's suspicious. The alarm goes up. A ferret, an escaped domestic animal, is on the loose and causing chaos. The waders mob it, trying to drive it away from their flightless chicks. But it's too late. It's got one. It vanishes into the long grass, but the damage is done. Introduced animals like ferrets can cause havoc in this fragile place. But that's not the only problem. The Uist macaire is less than 2 meters above sea level in many places. Now the climate is changing, and with it the sea is slowly rising. These low-lying islands are in danger of being claimed by the ocean. Here, where change is a fact of life, they say, what the wind brings, the current takes away. It's a reminder that whatever we might like to believe, living here on the outermost edge of the Hebrides is on the ocean's terms.